This is Julian, and I'm here in New York City. And what I want to talk about today is the concept of coming full circle and going through different cycles in life, okay? And how ultimately you should never just be attached to one way of doing things. You know, like this is it, this is the only way of going about something, and still remain open-minded to even going back to previous way of doing things that didn't work before. So the first example I thought I'd use to really illustrate this concept is a guy who gets into success with women. Okay, let's just take the typical guy who gets into this. You know, he wants to better himself as a person. He wants, women that he can actually date. And he comes into this a very sweet soul, if you will. You know, it's usually a guy who hasn't had much success in the past, pretty shy, pretty introverted, and, he just wants a girlfriend. Okay, he just wants a girl who he can date. He just wants to be in a nice, loving relationship. He doesn't necessarily want to go out and just, hit on all these girls. But, where he's at in his journey, he just can't get a girlfriend. Okay, there's too much attachment. There may be too much neediness. He just hasn't really learned how to relate with people yet. So he embarks on this journey. Okay, and what happens on this journey? Well, guess what? He's going to have to go out and start interacting with all these different women and pretty much putting himself into the fucking fire. Okay, I always say success with women, or pickup, if you will, is a grind. Okay, it's not necessarily fun. You're challenging everything about yourself. You know, your assumptions about the world, your assumptions about who you are, your identity, and it's very emotionally traumatizing. Okay, and he's going to start going out, and he's going to get shut down pretty intensely. You know, if you're like this sweet soul who's very shy and you go out, let's say even to a nightclub, and you walk up to a girl and you're like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, ugh, like that, it hurts. Okay, and you become hardened very fucking fast. Okay, you kind of see also like the true nature of people, where we pretty much just do everything just for value. You'll see the dark side. You'll basically see behind the curtain. Okay, any illusion that you have, like the world is so beautiful and nice and everyone's together, just gets destroyed. I just want a girl who will love me. Gone. Okay, and you become hardened very fast, and you become icy, as they say. Okay, it's like you learn to just tolerate a lot of bullshit, and in a way you kind of close, yourself off. You know, it's like you're nice and sweet and open, and you're just like, boom, you put on this front, this shell in a way, in order to not get so bruised or hurt. Okay, you desensitize yourself to that shit, and you start getting all these different results. Now that there, again, in terms of a cycle, is you start down there, you're the shy person who, like this sweet little soul, who embarks on the journey, gets hardened through the process. Now, from there, okay, let's just say he wants to get into a relationship with a woman. To get into that relationship, he's going to have to lose that shell and pretty much go back to how things were before. Okay, pretty much to putting himself out there, being vulnerable, and opening up, if you will. Okay, and this here, funny enough, kind of linking it to the myth of success with women. You always hear, oh yeah, players, you can go out and you'll sleep with a lot of girls, but you won't have any relationships. And where that comes from is not the lack of opportunity. Okay, funny enough, by going out and interacting with women, you have more opportunity than anyone in the world. However, you shoot yourself in the foot, because once that opportunity presents itself and the girl is ready to be with you in a serious relationship and connect with you, you have trouble letting go of that front, of letting go of that hard shell, of letting go of thinking, for example, okay, am I grounded? Am I, say, high value? What does the girl think of me? What's the dynamics at play? And you just can't let yourself be vulnerable and go back to how you were before, because you've associated that as being, say, bad. And you had to do that to embark on this journey. So the concept here is you have to come full circle, and everything's just a fucking cycle. Okay? For you to get into a relationship, you're going to have to somewhat let that go to come back to that same place of where you originally started out. And this can be extremely difficult because, on one hand, you've kind of disgusted yourself from coming from that place where it's like, ugh, that's bad, in order to create leverage to pursue, this process of just developing yourself and become a lot more hardened. And on top of that as well, you've developed a certain identity or ego, if you will, around going out and being this type of person and sleeping with all, say, these different women, for example. Okay, and to let go of all that is extremely challenging. You may even view it like, well, I've been doing it for so long, it's a waste of time. You know, and I actually had a client who asked me that in a seminar I gave in Austin. He was like, hey, you know, I'm pretty old. He was like in his 40s or 50s. And he's like, and I've been sleeping with a lot of women, and I just have trouble with relationships. And the thing is, it's like he's been doing it for so long, okay, for like literally decades. He's not really settled down and been vulnerable with a woman, and he's developed such an identity where it's just like, this is just me. I'm just the guy who sleeps with all these women. This is the only way that there is. And for me to settle down and me to acknowledging that I've been fucking up. Now, in reality, okay, and this is the message here, is that you're not fucking up. Okay, it's like you had to go through all that to reach this point here. If you're a guy who's extremely shy and can't get a girlfriend, you have to go through that hardening process in order to come back to it and come at a relationship from a very healthy place where it's not needy, it's not based on scarcity. You have a nice understanding of who you are, you developed who you are in the process, and you have a nice understanding of women and how both relate. Okay, so there's just one example. Another one that's personal to me is when I moved to Los Angeles. Okay, I grew up in Switzerland, and I had a very normal life. You know, I went to school, normal upbringing, normal parents, you know, good grades all throughout. And when I was in university, okay, in college, I decided to quit and move to Los Angeles. Okay, I was pretty much, fuck it all, I just want to live a life of experience. The path that I'm on here isn't what I want to do with my life, and any other opportunity offered saying this university is not what I want to do. And I just went the opposite way of just fuck it all. Took like, you know, $4,000 to $5,000 with me. That's all I had money-wise. I just moved to LA and arrived at the airport. I had my guitar, my suitcase, and that cash. Now, in order for me to do that, okay, to basically make that jump, I became very, very nihilistic. You know, in a way, it kind of felt like suicide, and I was very much like live fast, die young, short-term thinking. You know, I wasn't thinking about the future at all. I'm like, I'm just going to do this and fuck it. We'll see where it goes. And and that's pretty much the mindset that I was in. And I stayed in that for quite some time. You know, before that, I didn't even used to drink at all. You know, I'd go out and just like party sober. I never even thought of like, oh, I need to drink. And then when I moved to LA, I started, guess what, drinking a lot for a certain period of time. I was really just like, fuck it all, embrace all these different experiences. Now, after a period of time there, and when I started building a business and a brand, guess what? I had to switch out of it, okay? And that there was extremely difficult too, because I was like, well, for me to make this jump, because I wouldn't have done it thinking long term, because long term it's way too dangerous and too risky to just quit university and say move to you know, another country with no plan in mind. You know, I needed that leverage to be like, fuck long-term thinking, fuck, you know, like all this like serious work, just live fast, baby. And that was what I needed. Now I had to come full circle and go back to it, and it really felt like I was going backwards, and it felt too like the biggest challenge was, you know, me going backwards means I fucked up during that period of time, when in reality I didn't. Okay, it's like I had to go through that to reach this point here and continue on this long-term thinking in a healthy way that's aligned with something that I'm very passionate about. Okay, so this here is the message. Okay, it's like you have to come full circle, and guess what? It's never ending. You know, like say you get into a relationship, then also coming full circle could be viewed as going back to interacting with all these different women. For me, coming full circle could also be for periods of time going back to short-term thinking in order to reach another healthier long-term thinking way of viewing things. Okay, it's never really over, but everything is cycles, and it's not like you're wasting time. It's not like you're going backwards, and it's something that you have to go through in order to reach this point. Okay, it's like you can't just start there and remain the same. Okay, you to come from a healthy place, you have to go through the whole fucking cycle, if you will. So to conclude this, okay, and really just hammer this concept home. Okay, be adaptable, be flexible. Okay, like don't resist going through these cycles here, and embrace it. Okay, because you are going to feel a lot of fucking resistance. Just me, if you want some more examples, you know, just getting into, let's say, a relationship and making that transition there for a long period of time. You know, say my first, you know, couple relationships, I even had trouble, say, letting, you know, a girl sleep over or sleeping over at a girl's place. You know, why? Because in the morning I'm like, oh, she'll see the real me. I won't be as tough. I won't be as on top of my shit. And I had to desensitize myself to the point where, you know, you can put yourself out fully. You know, and that's what constitutes an awesome relationship, is where you don't have to worry about all that shit, where you're not having this front. You know, it's like your sanctuary, and that's what I'm in now. You know, it's like I was able to combine the two and embrace that feeling of even going backwards in a way. Another example, and this is actually from this weekend, I had a client who started off shy, and in terms of putting himself out there, he kind of went the route of, being loud or being more expressive, kind of pushing the limits of, expressiveness of putting himself out there, but it reached the point where it was just too much, and now for him, he has to kind of come full circle and go back to that more, grounded, relaxed side of himself, but combining the two. And it does feel, again, it feels like you're going backwards. It's like it feels like you've been fucking up if you let go of that. Your ego's invested, your identity's on it, and you're like, well, why the fuck was I doing that when I just had to be there from the start? Okay, but you're not. Okay, just view it. It's not like forward, backwards. It's fucking cycles. Okay, so keep this in mind, and as always, until next time.